Happy Friday. Welcome to the 3 Things I Learned. SaaS Sports Tech and Live Events Boys Junior National Volleyball Championships Edition. Big business. So our 12-year-old son, yes, only 12. It's pretty important to a lot of people, I suppose. Played in the national championships 2 weeks ago and won a silver medal in front of a large group of people with announcers and everything, and even was on the court the whole time and got all tournament and All-American awards. I learned a lot about business and life in that time and over the last year, and wanted to share those 3 things here as they're personal and very important. So let's get started. Number 1, you don't want your kid to be the one everybody's rooting for. You want him to be the one everybody's relying on. That one froze me in my steps when I heard it. It takes no explanation. We know who those people are in our lives. We know those people in our lives that we're rooting for. We really like them. We don't know if they're up for it yet, and we're really hoping that they rise to the occasion. But then there's that other set of people in our lives who we rely on, whether that's in our personal lives, in our families, in our business, or on our sports teams. What a fantastic lesson that I learned in Orlando when I saw with this team what I've seen through the rest of my life. That there are those that we rely on. Find those. Compensate them tremendously and try to become one of them. That's number 1. Number 2, it's where you want to be. I heard this one last summer and really got to work on our team and in the coaching that I've done over the last year. That all we can do in life is work our hardest, do our best, do the best we can with what we have. And if we do those things, then we can earn the right to have the ball in our hands when it matters, to play in a final, to have the ball in your hand for the free throw in overtime or the last shot, or to be the one throwing the last pass. When we do those things, there aren't nerves and there aren't pressure because we've earned the right to have the ball in our hands when it matters, because that's where we want to be. 2 days after the final, after people we've never met before are walking up to us on the beach and saying, "We watched your son play in the finals," I asked him if he was nervous. And you know what he said to me? "No, I was just hyped to be there because we worked so hard." That applies to everything we do in life and business. There's no pressure when you have the ball in your hands when it matters because you earned that right. And that's where you want to be. That's number 2. And number 3, a recycled one I'm using for the 3rd time in the last 4 years because it applies here. We'll see. We all know the story at the end of Charlie Wilson's War about we'll see what happens with the good things and the bad that are happening in our life. When COVID ravaged our business and ravaged our lives, we went on vacation to Maui in December of 2020. There was no reason to come home. There was no school. The business was closed. So we stayed for a little while. But at the time, my daughter, my son's twin sister, who was only 10 at the time, had a tyrant of a volleyball coach, and it ravaged us. He demanded way too much of 10 and 11-year-olds and told us that if we came home without keeping up with the other players, that she would be kicked off the team. It was a bad experience, but because of that, we went out and practiced every other day or so, just trying to keep the cadence of what was happening with our team at home. Now, my son played some volleyball before that, not a lot, and he needed something to do while we were killing time while we were over there in the off hours, so he came and practiced with us. There was no goal for the future or no him trying to get better. He was focused on basketball at the time, but he practiced with us the whole time anyways. Finally, our puppy passed, which we shared here a couple of years ago when we came home. And when we came home, my son mentioned that he'd really like to play volleyball like my daughter was doing. Unfortunately, due to the awfulness that was COVID, there were no local teams playing. So we were forced to look around. I called an old friend who owns a club in the South Bay called SCVC. He laughed and said he's on the team. I said, "Matt, he can't be on the team. We live 90 minutes away from our practices in traffic. I'll bring him once a week." He retorted with, "No, it's COVID. There won't be any traffic. You can do it at least for the next 3 months, which is the end of the season." He plugged into an incredible team of 12 and 13-year-olds, just wonderful families and terrific coaches. Turns out he had a knack for it. At his first tournament, we had to pay to watch because you weren't allowed in the gyms, and I didn't pay for it because he wasn't going to play. He's 10 years old. He came running out with an ear-to-ear smile, saying, "Dad, I had 5 aces." My response was not, "I'm proud or happy for you." My response was, "Wait, they put you in the game?" Fast forward a year and 3 months. Dylan's on a team that finishes second, plays every minute in the finals, gets all tournament awards, and the like. As much as we try to force things in our lives, whether that's in business, with our families, or personally, and trust me, the youth sports infrastructure, we all see it, it's so out of our hands. If it weren't for the terribleness that was COVID that forced us to Maui, that forced us to practice, that forced us to go play somewhere we wouldn't have played, we wouldn't have found ourselves in such a positive position. So, as they say, as Zen Master says again, we'll see. All I know is I'm thankful for that ride and excited for what's next. They're 12 years old. It doesn't matter. We all had a fun time. We're going to continue to learn life lessons, and hopefully these 3 life lessons are helpful to you along the way. That's it for this week. We'll see everybody next week on The 3 Things.